Balikbayan, a term used to describe Filipino citizens who have left the Philippines and reside in another country. The term was coined during the Marcos regime of the Philippines in the 1970s. Balikbayan is a combination of two Filipino words, balik, to return, and bayan, the country. The Filipino diaspora is one of the largest diaspora populations, spanning over 100 countries and 11 to 12 million Filipinos. This accounts for about 10% of the Filipino population. But how did they become this way? It's 1946. World War II ended under a year ago, and the Philippines is in distress. Approximately 500,000 to 1 million Filipinos are dead. The infrastructure of cultural architecture and ecosystems are destroyed, and poverty is now at an all-time high. The Philippines was one of the leading economic powers within Asia, and now it's one of the poorest. The United States acquired the Philippines almost half a century ago from the Spanish-American War. Efforts to westernize the Philippines to generate sources of labor come to light, and the exploitation of the Filipino people for the economy in the United States begins. In the earlier part of the 20th century, in 1906, the first Filipino migrants of the United States arrived in Hawaii to work as fruit pickers.
The proclamation of martial law is not a military takeover. I, as your duly elected President of the Republic, use this power which may be implemented by the military authorities, but still is a power embodied in the Constitution.
In 1965, the United States passed the Immigration and Nationality Act, opening doors to more of the Filipino population to immigrate. Ferdinand Marcos, the 10th President of the Philippines, declared martial law on the country on September 21st, 1972, 7 years after this act. Following economic depression within this martial law and the post-effects of World War II, Filipinos sought financial stability overseas, with the immigration of these Filipinos reaching the hundreds of thousands. Today, immigration continues to be a significant aspect of Filipino culture. As Filipinos find overseas work to support themselves and family at home better, a question is begged. What are the cultural implications of this immigration? What experiences differ or are shared between Filipino-Americans? How do the younger generations cope with this two-faced identity? What does it mean to be a Filipino?
The movie. Hi.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, let's try this again. This is just a conversation, okay? It's nothing more. Nothing else. So, what's your name, age, and where are you from?
Okay, so I'm Karen Sanchez. I'm 15 and I'm about to be 16. And I'm from Gilroy, California. And both my parents are from San Carlos, Pangasinan, Philippines.
I'm Brian Molina. I live in Morgan Hill, California. But when I did live in the Philippines before I immigrated when I was 4, I lived in San Fernando City, La Union.
My name is Kate Kimpo. I'm 15 and I was born and raised here in Gilroy, California.
I'm Isabel. Do we need a full name? No?
No,
Okay.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, I'm Isabel. I'm a second year college student at SJSU. Pre-nursing, not nursing yet. Trying to get into a program soon. And what was the other part? Tell me.
What's your age and where are you from?
I'm 19. I'm about to turn 20 in 2 weeks. I'm not ready, but I'm about to turn 20. I am from Gilroy, Garlic Town. My parents are like in the Philippines. I was born in the Philippines. I was born in San Fernando, Pampanga, because my mom is from there. But my dad is from Marikina, but he kind of bounced around the city, so like Manila and like we have family in Tagaytay and kind of scattered throughout Pampanga too. So yeah.
So, as a member of the diaspora community, you've had to grow between 2 or more cultures. How are aspects of Filipino culture integrated into your personal and interpersonal life?
So Filipino culture is definitely integrated into my life because at home we speak Tagalog and my parents, they try to raise me the same way that they were raised. So like at home I do all the chores with them. I share with my sister and we often try to, like, we do things that people in the Philippines do. Like, we go to church every Sunday, we hang out at parties, we have karaoke. Like, all the stereotypical Filipino-American, like, activities are, like, what we do at home.
I think growing up, I was always around my cousins and aunts, and they were also immigrants from the Philippines, but they were also like second generations down. So I think that's where I saw like the greatest collision between, or like being intertwined between like the Filipinos and American cultures. Like we would have like these house parties and like family gatherings, but I think the part that really stood out was like the integration and family aspect of it all. Like we've had cultural things, like if you go to a Filipino gathering, you have to bless or at least hug every single relative in the house, like as a form of customary greeting. And I think that sort of highlights like the family and just connection aspect of it all, because regardless of how many people were there, you felt like that connection no matter what.
Like, I think Filipinos are really big on respecting God. And so my dad used to say, like, cleanliness is next to godliness. And so we used to go to church every single Sunday. And I think interpersonal, when I talk to people sometimes, when I talk to people, I used to not know the difference between some words in Tagalog or Bisaya that we speak at home. And I used to tell it to them, and they wouldn't understand me. And I thought, like, oh, am I weird? Am I weird for that? Yeah.
I think, like, generally in my life, it's like a really big influence to be Filipino. I think a lot of my values within, I guess this goes into interpersonal too, but all of my like main values and things that I think are important and like morals are all stemming from being Filipino and growing up in a really traditional Filipino household.
Yeah.
Like one that I say a lot of the time is that I'm super family oriented. That's part of the reason why I chose SJSU, because I can go home like 30 minutes away like anytime I want to if I need to. It's also given me a lot of values with being like family roles. Like I, as an oldest sibling, like the title of like an ate, I carry with me like everywhere. Like I have two younger siblings, but then I'm also an ate. Like you call me ate. I have friends here at SJSU that call me ate because I'm like older than them and I'm surrounded by Filipinos now. But even like day-to-day tasks, I also like, this is so minuscule, but it's like how I function as a human being, like the way that I cook food. Obviously it's gonna be like Asian centered, and like all like everything is gonna have like a little sprinkle of being Filipino in there. Like if I cook pork belly, I'm gonna put like, oh my god, am I allowed to close this? Oh my god, sorry, you can bleep it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put like all like, it's gonna taste like adobo. It's yeah. So that, and then how like I think a lot of like my habits in like keeping spaces clean and like how I exist as a human being, especially living with roommates, I've learned that we're very, I think it might just be a general Asian thing too. It's like the shoes off in the house, and then like when you bless to like your elders at family gatherings and things like that.
So, where did you learn about aspects of Filipino culture? What influences were conscious to them?
I definitely learned Filipino culture, not really from my parents. The only thing that I learned was my language and maybe like a couple of our like customs, like traditions such as like 12, 13 fruits during New Year's. But I really learned about Filipino culture, such as like our cultural clothes and our national anthem, for example, from the media, and definitely observing it through other Filipino Americans around me.
Did your parents ever tell you any stories of the Philippines growing up?
Yeah, they told me a lot of stories about how simple it was to grow up in the province, how much safer it is back at home growing up for them, and how they're really more connected with their peers than I am, like personally.
In all honesty, I think most of the ways I've learned about Filipino culture are mostly just through what I've experienced myself. because when I moved from the Philippines, I was only 4, so I didn't really get to learn too many things being in the main motherland myself. So it mostly have to do with things I'd pick up in my environment, or like stories my mothers would tell from her past, or stories I'd hear from my aunts and uncles as well.
Everything, like everything that I learned, it's not from social media or a textbook or anything. It's only like what my parents tell me and what I grew up around.
I go straight from work.
Growing up, I used to think Filipino music was kind of weird, low-key. But as I got older, I noticed like how out of touch I was with my own culture. So I started getting into it more through like social media, like the music, and not really the history, but it's like what's going on.
I think I learned most of it from my parents, obviously, yeah. Because I grew up like in a Filipino household, and I also grew up speaking Tagalog. So like I wouldn't say it's my first language. I kind of grew up speaking Tagalog and English simultaneously. Like all of the sentences would kind of be a mix of like Tagalog. Yeah. So if it's like, where's my blanket, it'd be like, where's my kumot? It'd be stuff like that. So language-wise, that's where I learned it. I never learned how to speak Kapampangan, because that's what my mom speaks, but she speaks both. She speaks Tagalog, English, and Kapampangan. I learned a lot about, like, I guess, it's not a love language. It's like, food is a big, like, thing that brings up togetherness in my house. So, like desserts, I always grew up, like, learning how to make turon with my mom. I'm the one that rolls each individual turon, and, like, the lumpia. That's how I learned how to do that.
So, what do you know about Filipino history?
I don't know a lot about Filipino history. Like, I really just know what's really put on the media, such as the 333 years of colonization from multiple countries, or like a couple famous figures such as Jose Rizal, but not like deeply know about a lot of the history of it.
What would motivate you to learn more about Filipinos?
I feel like if it was just more available to me, or if it was more widely taught and easier to learn, rather than just having to do a deep dive on social media.
Oh, so in all honesty, I feel like I don't know as much about Filipino history as I would like to know, because having moved when I was 4, I wasn't able to get the typical Filipino educational experience going like through the system there, and instead most of the history I've learned here is through the American point of view. And in addition to that, I feel like the aspects of history I've been able to learn were from like stories and experiences and questions I'd ask like my mother or my dad or just my aunts and uncles growing up about like certain names and like revolutions and stuff like that.
I'm gonna be so real with you, like nothing. Yep. Nothing, like at all.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Oh, well I know.
I feel like historically I don't know too much. I don't know as much as I should.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
funny, because the next question was,
Really?
what do you know about Filipino
Oh,
history?
nothing! The answer is nothing. I guess it's a blessing and a curse, though. I think it's like, privileged enough to exist and not need to worry about history. But it is there's a reason why I joined a Filipino club. Like, it's so that I can learn more about my culture and things like that. Because there are a lot of people here that are super, like, because they weren't involved when they were younger, they're involved now. And I'm like, I was involved when I was younger, but not enough now. So I learned from them, but to bluntly answer the question, I don't know a lot. Like, scale of 1 to 10, maybe like 2.
Yeah.
Historically.
Yeah.
Like, traditions and stuff like that, I know a decent amount. Historically, no.
You could summarize the Philippine identity to yourself, like, what it-
I think I would say like hospitality, because Filipinos, like, they're very accepting like of who you are, kind of like in a way, like, they will always take care of you. Like, I feel like Filipinos like really try to care for each other, especially like, Filipinos are usually nurses, right? It's not just because like, it's easy money or like they can come to America, but I've genuinely seen like so many Filipino nurses like really try to help the people around them. Like my mom, she she really loves her job, not because of how like easy, like it's not an easy job, but she always tells me that she loves helping those people and seeing them change and become better people and go out into the world with a better mindset.
I'd say one part, or like not really an experience, but like one specific aspect or like action of the Filipino culture that really cements me as like, oh, I'm Filipino, is like going back to what I've said before, is the blessing part of it. Like how you like say bless but to every, like regardless of like an event or like a family gathering, like you'd always have to do it. And that cemented the experience for me because I feel like it sort of intertwines the family aspect culture of it and also the religious aspect of it, because I feel like growing up in the Philippines, we're always surrounded by like this Christian or like Catholicism aspect of life, and just being able to say bless po and getting the blessings sort of by your relatives or your elderly or your cousins sort of shows that how that your family is always there for you at the end of the day. They have your back, and that is really the foundation of who you are, you know? There's people that support you, people you can trust, and people that you can reach out to. And I sort of think that umbrellas the whole Filipino family aspect of what it means to be a part of this identity.
Filipino experience in one word or a few words, what would it be?
Because then that would I'm sending home for anxiety.
You could think the word.
I'm not even. I don't know. It's like.
I think the word I would use is faint.
Yeah.
It's faint. Like it's barely there, honestly. Like barely, slightly.
Barely there, like in what sense? Like,
In the sense that, because I was raised here in America, I'm not really in touch with my roots. So like I don't really know the culture, only like the stereotypes more. Yeah, barely any of the language.
so, summarize your Filipino identity in one word, what would it be?
Oh God.
Go for anything.
One word? That's hard. Summarize it. Either multifaceted or like complex, something like that. Because like I said earlier, there's like a lot of clashing in my Filipino values and American values, and my Filipino like cultural identity reflects so differently in all of my different parts of like life. Like it reflects in my school, it even obviously like stereotypes, but it reflects in my dance, like it reflects everywhere, but they're all showing up completely different, because some of them are like, oh, this is super Filipino, and then in other places it's like, oh, this isn't really something a Filipino person would do, but it's showing up anyway. I think, yeah, complex / multifaceted.
The Filipino-American identity continuously evolves through the experiences of the children of the Filipinos that sacrifice so much to provide. As it can be seen, experiences as Filipino-Americans are shared and can be assumed to be commonly found throughout much of the diaspora. Therefore, a priority must be placed to inspire other Filipino immigrants and artists to continuously promote media that helps these third culture individuals find comfort in the roots that aren't as easily accessible. It is a vision that one day, these individuals will grow up understanding more about their culture and appreciating the history that they come from. That one day, they will share a love for their identity that will be passed down onto the future generations of diasporic Filipinos.